This is episode 135 of the Wildlife Photography Podcast. In this episode, the Wolf Conservation Center. Hi everybody, my name is Jerry, I'm from Wild Eye, and I am yet to see a wolf in the wild. I've come close once or twice actually, both of those being in the Great Bear Rainforest up in British Columbia. This was last year, August. We got to two different islands on two separate occasions, and we got onto the island, we found fresh tracks, we started tracking them. It was amazing and super exciting. The tide was going out, we had to leave, didn't find them. I'm not going to talk more about it because it hurts a little bit, but no, I'm going back later this year and I would love to see these things in the wild. I can just imagine, I think back to when I saw my first polar bear in the wild. Certain animals out there just capture our imagination. I'm thinking polar bear, I'm thinking wolves, I'm thinking leopard, I'm thinking elephant to some people. So when I was in New York recently, I met up with a client of mine who did Svalbard with me about, 4 years ago already. We actually met at the Paul Nicklin gallery and ended up having drinks with him afterwards. It was a great evening. But we got speaking about the Wolf Conservation Center where Martha is involved with, and I immediately wanted to find out more, not just for myself, but I thought it would be a good topic of conversation because like with animals in Africa, specifically predators, I'm thinking wild dog, jackal in Africa, there's human-animal conflict. And the conservation of these animals, these predators, and in some instances apex predators like the wolves, is a vital thing that we need to understand and discuss. So I am going back to British Columbia later this year in August, September. Still 2 spots open for anybody who wants to join me, by the way. Hard sell there. But I'm also going to Yellowstone next year, and wolves are very high at the top of my want-to-see list. Now, I would love to see them. I know a lot of you would like to see them. I know a lot of you have seen them. Kurt, you guys, if you are listening, the images you guys have of them is just spectacular. But anyway, I met up with Maggie Howell, who's the executive director at the Wolf Conservation Center in New York. And we had a chat about wolves conservation, the challenges, what we can do, and everything in between. The audio here and there is a bit dodgy, but the message is amazing. So hope you guys enjoy. Here we go. Maggie, thank you so much for joining us. Very happy to have you.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Yeah, I messed it up last time, but I'm so glad we get to do this. And for me, it's a bit of an unknown territory, I must be honest, because I'm very African wildlife, always have been, but I've started venturing to British Columbia, next year to Yellowstone. So, wolves. Wolves have this, there's kind of an ancient guttural thing about wolves. Why do you think that is? Let's start there.
That's an interesting question, and I wonder often because definitely wolves evoke strong emotions, whether they be positive or negative, but not many people are just middle of the road when it comes to wolves. And I think a lot of it might be because they're very similar to people. Mm-hmm. We're both very family-oriented species. We're predators. We hunt the same prey. Yeah. We compete as well. And then also we all have these mini wolves that we call dogs, which are man's best friends. So it's definitely the wolf and wolf relatives are entwined in our culture and in our world. Yeah,
it's a funny thing because I asked some of the guys at the office as well. So what questions do you have? And the first connotation someone asked is, why is it called the big bad wolf? Because that's like the Red Riding Hood story. And it's unfortunate. I think it's an unfortunate thing for the species, but it's unfortunately, like you said, part of the culture.
It is, and it continues, for centuries there have been fairy tales or fables, whether, Little Red Riding Hood or the Three Little Pigs and the Big Bad Wolf. And now even if you open a newspaper, you'll probably see stories about lone wolf terrorism. Yep. So it definitely is a part of our language. And we've actually been making efforts in the conservation world to rebrand, I guess, what the wolf is. And even, instead of really trying to explain or I guess, reveal just how family-oriented they are. Instead of calling them packs, we might call them wolf families. Yeah. Instead of saying, like, the alpha pair, we'll say the breeding pair, the mom or dad, just to really kind of make it real so people understand what wolves really are.
It makes it friendly as well, because I know from a guiding point of view, taking people out into Africa, even though people have seen the documentaries on Nat Geo and Discovery, whatever, there's still a very big misunderstanding as to how these things really work. So I think that kind of narrative is very important.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
definitely.
So let's quickly backtrack here. The Wolf Conservation Center. In like, I don't know, however long you want. I was about to say do like the elevator pitch, but it's not important. What is it? Where is it? How long has it been? And why is it important?
So the Wolf Conservation Center, we're coming on our 20th anniversary. So we were founded in 1999. And we're a not-for-profit in Westchester County in New York, which is an hour north of New York City. And currently home to 30 plus wolves, which blows people's mind when they think how close we are to the city.
That's crazy.
It is. And what we do at the Wolf Center is we really have a three-pronged mission where, first of all, we're educating people about the importance and plight of wolves all over North America. We are also participating in the Federal Recovery Program for two critically endangered wolf species, the red wolf and the Mexican gray wolf. Yeah. And we are advocating, mobilizing support. So really educating people how they can be better advocates for wolves, giving them the tools and knowledge required.
Nice. And then linked to that, very importantly, who is Maggie and how did she get involved?
Well, I grew up in New York City, which we don't have any, wolves, or not that kind of wolf.
Wolf of Wall Street comes to mind, but that's it.
Exactly. and always had a passion for predators and really took kind of a long route working for captive animals out west for many years. And then I found out about the Wolf Conservation Center, and I was just like, oh my gosh, this is an hour away from where I grew up, and it's exactly what I want to do. So I really lucked out, made them hire me, and I've been there for over 10 years.
Wow, that's amazing. I earlier today, and just before I met up with you now, I loaded the website. It's nywolf.org. I'll link all of this in descriptions everywhere for people listening. But I mean, just the sound. I had my sound at my computer turned way up when it started, and this howling comes. I mean, it is just beautiful. It is absolutely just powerfully amazing. The website on here, so there's a webcam.
Yep. How
often? Who is that? What are we looking at there?
So we have a whole network of webcams, and initially, because we work with recovering endangered wolves, a lot of the animals are actually candidates for release. So it's important they're not used to seeing people. They're really kept off exhibit in our endangered species facility where they're secluded and we can safeguard their natural elusive behavior.
It's all in the same conservation center. It's all in the same... Okay.
Exactly. So years ago, we got webcams because it was going to help us with husbandry to understand how they're doing, their health, their habits. Then we opened it up to the public, and they have been the best education and engagement tool, better than we ever could have dreamed. And basically, so we have webcams almost on all of our wolves, but the web that are very popular right now are on two families of critically endangered red wolves because they just had pups on Friday.
Is that M1784?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we have and his wife, whatever. His mate.
See, that's narrative. We need that narrative. It's important.
Yeah, 1858, and right now she's in the den with, we think, 5 or more pups. We're actually going to go in and check them tomorrow. And it was funny because on Friday we had a special event, a bear program, just about black bears here in our area, and an hour before the program, one of the red wolves had pups, and we were just glued. We're all excited. And then an hour later, a different female in a different family had pups, and we were all just going bananas.
That's phenomenal.
Yeah, it was really awesome. And these guys are so endangered. Right now in the wild, there are fewer than 30 red wolves left. So 30 of them in the wild, and we think we had at least 7 born at our center, last Friday, which, that's
that is amazing.
That's a wild population, yeah.
So I mean, I've got loads of questions coming from kind of my
Okay.
African point of view. Red wolves, where do they naturally occur?
So red wolves once ranged throughout the southeast in the United States, and there is some debate about how far north they went, and also how closely related or were they at the same time the same thing as the Algonquin wolf, which is currently in Ontario. But in recent history, it's really just the southeast, and really through predator control programs and also loss of habitat, they were pushed further and further south until only 14 red wolves remained in the wild, which were scooped up by U.S. Fish and Wildlife, placed in captivity to start a breeding program.
That's insane. The numbers are quite frightening, hey?
Yeah, and the red wolf program, it was just over 20 years ago when they were reintroduced into the wild into the state of North Carolina. And for years under federal leadership, the program actually thrived. And it got up to a population of about 130. But in just recent years, really just due to neglect from, I think, our government, the population has plummeted. And that's why we see ourselves today with a population closer to 30.
Sure. Well, the news from the webcam is amazing then. That's just great. I've actually, one of the questions here for later on has to do with government involvement. So I'm going to throw that to you later on. Just a quick one. On the Wolf Conservation Center, is that part of a bigger national body? How does it work?
So we are just an entity to ourselves. However, we do collaborate with a lot of other organizations in our country and also some in Mexico as well. But nope, we're independent.
Okay, gotcha. Now, I don't know how much you know about, we've got in Africa, South Africa specifically, there are, what do they call them? Like a lion park, right? Now, unfortunately, and I mean, I'm not going to go too deep into this now, but a lot of these places have in the past been used as breeding centers for canned hunting. Now, whether it is or not, I'm not going to say yes or no, but there's rumors, and normally when there's smoke, there's fire. I mean, from your point of view, being involved with the Wolf Conservation Center, are there accusations and stuff like that, or is it pretty much everybody buys into what you're doing, if you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, we don't. Thankfully, we don't have to worry about those sorts of accusations or thoughts, and it's probably because we're part of a network, and many of the other facilities that participate in this recovery will be zoos or people a little bit more like us, and it's actually we work with the state wildlife agencies and also the federal, so U.S. Fish and Wildlife. So it's very managed and takes a lot of collaboration. It also gets a little bit tricky because sometimes you sue some of your partners in our case.
It could get very interesting.
So it's interesting, but no, we don't. Thankfully, we don't have to worry about that sort of thing.
And your releases, you don't just do releases in the New York State. You do them nationwide?
Yeah. So, oops, sorry, my dogs.
No, mine too as well. No stress.
Okay, so we actually don't do any releases in New York. The places where the Mexican gray wolf are released are in the Southwest, in Arizona and New Mexico, and now also northern Mexico. For the red wolf, historically, it's been in North Carolina only.
And any collaboration, the only place I've come very close to seeing wolf was in the Great Bear Rainforest, coastal wolves. Do you guys collaborate there? Do you work with the people up that side?
We definitely have friends from BC, and we've definitely in recent years have tried to mobilize some of our supporters and educate them about some of the challenges and issues, but also how special those coastal wolves are. I mean, they're just fantastic.
We had two mornings. We got to an island, two different mornings, and literally we landed on the Zodiac and we found fresh tracks. And we tracked these things for as long as we could, but we had to go because the tide was going. It was like, oh, damn it, not yet. So I'm hoping in August. I'm hoping.
Yeah, we've led two trips out there for our supporters, and I went for the first time last June. It's my favorite place on the planet, and we did see wolves.
I mean, I didn't know what to expect, and I mean, in Africa, we're kind of lucky and sometimes spoiled with the diversity of big game, but the landscapes and the mood and the vibe in that place is just insane.
It was, and I'm eager to go back, definitely.
You mentioned challenges. What is your biggest challenge? As the Conservation Centre for Wolves, what is the biggest challenge you're facing?
I think right now the biggest challenge for us at the Wolf Center will likely be our work with these critically endangered Mexican wolves and red wolves. They both have similar challenges and also some unique ones. But even, both of these animals were so rare that they both went extinct in the wild at one time. So the Mexican wolf, only 7 wolves were rescued from extinction. So all Mexican wolves on the planet today descended from those 7 founders. And for the red wolf, it's very similar. They also went extinct, and they all descended from just 14 wolves. So for both the species, genetics is a challenge. Really rebuilding a population that has genetic integrity and health is a challenge. Exactly. And so that's definitely, so even when we're doing, when we're breeding wolves, these, we don't let wolves just fall in love with who they want to fall in love with. We are matching wolves together that have the lowest inbreeding coefficient so we can create as healthy a population as we can. So definitely that's a challenge. And then really it's politics, I think, is the challenge. As I mentioned a little bit, the red wolf, it's been very discouraging to see just this plummeting population and on our watch. And right now the federal government is poised to remove even more red wolves and place them basically all in captivity. And, recovery, captive programs can aid recovery, but recovery cannot happen in captivity alone. These guys have to be on the wild. The Mexican wolf, it's similar, and really it's kind of what we started talking about from the beginning. Wolves are a polarizing predator, and there are a lot of opponents to wolves despite their ecological importance and also even economic importance in some areas. Yeah.
And what about human-animal conflict? So in South Africa, or in Africa, one of the big challenges, especially with the African wild dog, now, sometimes it's called the painted wolf, it's called the African hunting dog, but farmers shot those out because they think they were vermin. There was a horrible, lack of education and of understanding from the farmer's point of view. The same with black-backed jackal. So these things, you have the buffer zones between conservation areas and farming, the jackal goes across. The farmer shoots out the one, more comes in because that was the dominant one. And now, is there a similar thing, human-animal conflict, from a wolf point of view?
Yeah, and we do have conflict, and not so much. It normally any sort of conflict will be stemming from livestock, just like the farmers in Africa that you're mentioning, and in a lot of the wolves' natural habitat, that's our areas where people are grazing a lot of cows, yeah. And on our public lands as well here in the States. Actually, most of the West is public lands.
There's no way that people can hunt wolves legally.
Yeah, you can. In certain areas, wolves were removed from the endangered species list, and actually in every state where they have been declared as recovered, they are hunted for sport that same year, except for Michigan, which waited 1 year. So, in fact, you mentioned in Africa the farmers considering the painted dogs as vermin. That's actually a word that's still used today on the book, so legally in the state of Wyoming. In Wyoming, you can hunt wolves in 85% of the state, which is called the predator zone, without a license, any time of year. So you could do it right now when pups are being born. You can use really anything that's legal to kill them. In the other 15%, they have a trophy zone, which last year they killed, and that's right around like Glacier National Park or Yellowstone National Park, and they killed 44 wolves. This year they're proposing to kill 58, so that's a 32% increase. So
I'm actually quite shocked. It's like, I understand the system, but that is just like, wow.
It is, and what's sad is a lot of the science is telling us that killing wolves doesn't necessarily help reduce conflict.
Sure.
It's not necessarily the solution. And in fact, because they're family oriented, the same way you mentioned the jackals, if they kill off the leader,
Sure.
Might have more naive wolves that split up, create more babies, and they're not going to really have necessarily the tools or experience to know how to hunt what they should be hunting.
Sure.
No,
I'm shocked. The numbers you just gave me is absolutely quite shocking.
It is, and I think a lot of people are shocked when they hear that, and actually, as I mentioned, they're so controversial. In Wyoming alone, they were removed from the endangered species list. They were hunted. Lawsuits were filed. They were put back on the endangered species list, and now they're back off again. So it's a bit of a yo-yo due to litigation, which is necessary, and sometimes it helps wolves, and sometimes it just doesn't work.
Which is the most non-threatened wolf species? Which is the most common one, for lack of a better term?
Well, the Canadian or Rocky Mountain gray wolf, those are the wolves that we have here in the U.S. that were reintroduced into Yellowstone. So they're all living throughout the Rockies. And actually, those wolves came from B.C. that they introduced, but not the coastal wolves. They're the interior B.C. wolves.
Okay.
So really, in North America, those are the wolves that are most probably prominent. The wolves in the Great Lakes states of Michigan, Minnesota, Wisconsin, they tend to be a little bit smaller than the other wolves, but they're also, throughout Canada and the northern United States, but not as much to the west.
Yeah.
And the most, I guess, the rarest gray wolf, because these are all gray wolves that I'm talking about, would be the Mexican gray wolf.
Mexican. No, that's the one that you turned at 7 or something. That's just...
Yeah.
Wow.
So.
Do you think, with the whole numbers from a hunting point of view, is there a point of no return? Is something going to happen? Is it education? Is it awareness? Is it money? Is it politics? What's going to turn that? Is something going to turn that?
Yeah, it's a little bit of everything. And right now, I think one of the most important things is teaching kids, especially because they're still open-minded, sponges, about the importance of not only wolves, but, so many different species. And how they're all connected on the wild landscape. Yeah. And what happens when you remove one and the trickle-down effect that can impact others in both the plant and animal communities. So really, I think teaching kids and adults that are open-minded, just really about the importance of really safeguarding our natural resources, whether it be animals or water or air, is so incredibly important, especially now, I think.
Yeah. I've got two questions kind of from this. Social media for you guys, that especially if you're looking at the younger generation, and look, not so young anymore as well, but that must be a big avenue to kind of get this awareness and education across.
Yeah, definitely. And so we have a pretty good presence on social media, and it's hard to keep up with it because they're living and breathing platforms, basically.
It's like having a child. It's crazy.
It is. But on Facebook, we have almost 3.5 million followers. So it's so wonderful just to see that interest and that engagement. And because we have things because we have beautiful wolves to share their photographs or videos and our webcams, it's been incredible. I think it was last year or the year before, I announced via Facebook that one of our Mexican gray wolves was in labor, and I'm tune in to the webcam now, and over 300,000 people tuned in right then. Totally crashed our website, but still, I was oh my gosh, that is so amazing that see how many people wanted to tune in to see this wolf.
Kind of thing, that gives you hope. There must be some hope caught up in that people are so keen to see this. That we have to be hopeful. It's the best we can do. What I'll do, just for the people listening and watching, is I'm going to be linking all of your social platforms, everything into the description. So if they want to kind of find you, we can do that. I have to ask you about the video, How Wolves Change Rivers. It's, this thing went viral. I'm not sure how long ago. It kind of comes back every once in a while. I watched it again earlier on just to kind of remind myself. It's currently got 40 million views on YouTube. what do you know? How were you guys involved? Who did this? It is amazing.
So we were not involved, although I people send it to me still, like every day. Like, have you seen this? And I'm like, I have, but thank you. It's the best PSA for wolves. I mean, so many people have seen it, which is, and there's like versions of it, so even that 14 million views, I think the actual viewership is probably just much bigger. And I think it started from a TED Talk, actually, that was then just put into, to video and photos.
Who did that TED Talk?
Yeah, it was, he's English,
Jordan Monbiot.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, I'm just Googling as we go, yeah.
Yeah, he's done some great talks, and he's often doing TED Talks and other things. But really what the video does is tell the story of what happened when wolves returned to Yellowstone. And just because of the animals they eat, which are grazing animals like elk or moose or bison, really the trickle-down effect that wolves had really on the entire ecosystem. Wolves, science is saying that wolves impacted not only the habitat, so the trees and the vegetation, but also, species from pronghorn to coyotes to songbirds to fish, and even the physical landscape itself could have been impacted by the presence of wolves.
I think the nice thing about that video, and I mean, coming from a guiding background and understanding the food webs and all those bad things, it's beautifully simple. It's just, it's even someone who has you can take an accountant, and no offense to any accountants listening, but you can take an accountant and say, look at this, and it'll make sense. It's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful.
It's like a living, breathing infographic. It's amazing. And, and of course, ecosystems aren't that simple, but it tells the basic story. And, a lot of people think, well, let's just release wolves everywhere and ta-da, we'll fix the world. And, there's different pressures in ecosystems, are top down or bottom up, but definitely there's no scientist out there that will argue that that will not agree that wolves really did have a positive impact on that ecosystem upon reintroduction 20 years ago.
It's beautiful. It was just amazing. What I'll do is I'll link some of this in the video. It's spectacular. From your point of view, if Maggie had a choice and you could click your fingers and there was one thing that you could do to make people understand how important this is, what would that one thing be? Would it be bucket loads of cash? Would it be the government understanding? Would it be more awareness? Would it be, what is the one thing? If it went gun to your head, one thing, what would it be?
Oh, well, I think in order for recovery for wolves to be successful, it wouldn't be cash. Although I do like the
yes.
bucket load cash. That would be nice.
Yeah, it doesn't make things more difficult. Let's put it that way.
I think it would be. It would just have to be understanding, and probably more from the political side. I think a lot of individual, people understand the importance of wolves and understand that, people care. We are here on our planet, and we should be saving some of these treasures, whether it be wildlife again or wild places for future generations. And I think we have to really think more long term than just these kind of short term decisions about what sort of earth we're leaving for our children and grandchildren. And I'd hope they'd want a place where they have healthy, resilient ecosystems that could, survive for a long time. Because science says right now we're in the middle of sixth mass extinction, human caused. climate change. And really, we need this. We need to make sure that what we have here is strong and resilient and can survive these future challenges.
Yeah, very much. I couldn't agree more. I posted something on my Instagram a couple of days ago. It's a picture of an elephant sunset kind of thing, and it was on Earth Day. So I'm going to link this for you. And I posted a David Attenborough quote on it. The question is, are we happy to suppose that our grandchildren may never be able to see an elephant except in a picture book? Now, hundreds of comments, right? People like, oh no, it's terrible and stuff. It's all fine. People I know out there listening as well. For you guys, you need to focus on this. People just like it and then they move on, right? If they feel they've done their part, you haven't. There are people out there that want to make a difference. What can people out there do listening to this who want to get hold of you? What can people do to help make a difference? And it could be little Johnny who's 7 years old and he's listening with his mom in the car, or it could be the executive from the Johannesburg Stock Exchange. Whoever it is, what can they do to help?
I think right now, and I think that just the current atmosphere in the United States at least, is I think people have to express their feelings and their concerns to their representatives in Congress. And it doesn't matter if you live in New York or if you live in Wyoming. Really, this, I hate to say that we own wildlife, but legally, wildlife belongs to all of the citizens in this country.
And we need to kind of take care of it.
Exactly. We all have the same voice, or the same, not voice, rights and ownership, so we can express how we treat this resource, being wildlife in our country. And obviously for children, they can't vote. But it's amazing what kids are doing in our country right now, expressing themselves.
Big changes, hey? Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's the power of this, the cell phone. Getting online and just expressing your view is crazy.
It's crazy, yeah. And just encouraging people that, speaking up isn't scary. You can go, it doesn't have to be just with a computer. If you call your representative, you're probably going to talk to someone that's 20 years old. It's going to be one of their staffers. Don't be intimidated. They don't want to debate you or argue, but how can we expect our representatives to know how we feel unless we communicate? So really, to communicate as a constituent to everyone's representatives, I think, is something that is so important, but something that also appears to be happening more and more right now, which is fantastic.
That's brilliant, brilliant. Now, from an audience point of view, people listening to this, there's a lot of wildlife photographers or wannabe wildlife photographers or people just keen on wildlife and nature. The Wolf Conservation Center, can people come there with the camera and take pictures?
Yeah, definitely. So we actually do have photo session programs specifically for people that want to take photos.
Are those on the website?
Yeah, so we have them about twice a month.
Okay.
We had one actually yesterday morning.
What does that mean? And, what is that?
It's just called, basically you have 2 hours. We have certain cutouts in the fencing, so you can get photos without fences, and then our staff will try to get the wolves moving around a little bit. Especially like one of the wolves loves people so much. This is an ambassador wolf, so not one of our endangered wolves, that he just hangs next to the fence to say hi to people. And we're like, no, can you go a little further back? People have these huge lenses, So, but we only have 4 wolves that people are guaranteed to see at the Wolf Center. So we have our 4 ambassador wolves, or education wolves, which are beautiful. We have one who's an Arctic wolf. The others are Canadian or Rocky Mountain gray wolves. And you have an opportunity to see red wolves. We have one exhibit that people can go to, and an opportunity to see Mexican wolves. But because they're so elusive, sure, you never know. Yeah. So it's fun. People get some really great shots, and we had some people that really lucked out this past year. Yeah. It seems like almost every time it snowed, we had one of these photo sessions. So the people were like, "Oh, wolves in the snow!" It was great.
Wow. I'm just thinking off the side here. This is not just as you're speaking now. I didn't know this happened. I'm going to be in New York on September somewhere this year, and then again in January, February next year. Maybe we
Ooh.
can talk. I can chat to you. I know I've got a lot of listeners and clients in New York. Maybe we can put together some sort of we come through fundraiser, social media, something. I would love
awesome.
that. We must maybe chat.
Yeah.
So anybody listening, if you'd be keen on that, let us know. But I'll chat to you, Maggie, and then we can put something online later on. I think I would love to.
That'd be cool. Yeah.
That's after I see my coastal wolves in August, September, of course.
Oh, jealous.
Right. I had a question on coastal wolves here. If you don't mind, I've got 2 questions for you just from people that sent in. We've covered some of the other ones. So I'm not even going to go there. The one guy, Callum, asks, he's been fascinated with coastal wolves in British Columbia for some time. He's curious about their biology and habits. Do they have smaller pack sizes than their counterparts in Yellowstone? Do they prey on large mammals, or are they primarily beach combers?
It's my understanding that they're primarily going to just eat what the sea serves up.
Yeah. You've seen some of Ian McAllister's images, hey?
My God.
That just, man, it is the stuff. It's mad.
Yeah, and even, because even when we did see them last June, or we saw one, we had 2 experiences, but one was amazing. It was, again, low tide, and that's when just out of the jungle, basically, he's out and just scratching in the sand and nibbling on little things. Actually, I don't know if it was a male or female, but I say it's a female in my head.
Yeah.
And she started howling. And it was just like, are you kidding me? So it was like a show.
Like goosebumps. Yeah, come on.
It was amazing, and just the whole, they're just gorgeous. But that's my understanding, and if I remember correctly, it was a few years ago that even they found that genetically they differ a bit from the inland wolves. And definitely because of their diet and behavior, they're much different than the inland, like BC wolves, which are hunting, caribou or much larger game than salmon and really mollusks and whatever they can find under a rock. Yeah. So I mean, it's amazing. There was actually a really funny cartoon that came out. It's one of my favorite political cartoons, and it was about the wolves of BC, and it showed this fierce looking wolf on a cliff, and it was said, that's the inland BC wolf, and then the coastal wolf was sitting at a coffee bar asking for a latte with a kale biscotti and a side of yoga pants, and I was like, oh, that's just too much.
That's great. I mean, let's brand them as such. That's lovely. Awesome. Maggie, I'm going to be linking all the, like I said, website and the videos, everything we spoke about, I'll add in the descriptions here. Are you happy if people get hold of you directly if they have any questions? Which email address can I use for them? Anybody that has any questions on how they can help, what they can do, when they can visit, who can they get in touch with?
Yeah, definitely. The best email address would be info, which is info at nywolf.org. So info nywolf.org, and that comes to me and a whole bunch of other people, and that's our general email. So that'd be great. We'd love to get some emails.
Good. So I'm going to link all those things up on both YouTube, wherever we post, the SoundCloud, and so on and so forth. And where do you stay? In New York itself, or are you closer to the center?
Sorry, what?
Where do you stay? Are you in New York City, or are you?
So, yeah, I live 20 minutes away. As much as I love the Wolf Center, it's nice to go home.
Always. As I said, I go on safari and it's great. It's the best destination is coming home. Always is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be in New York. I think it's 7 to 9 September. I'm going to get in touch. Maybe you and I can meet for coffee and we can plan something for the future. Get some of our clients down there and do something. I'd love to do that.
Oh, that would be amazing. That'd be really
do lunch and talk wolves. I'd love to.
Perfect.
Lovely.
Sounds perfect.
Maggie, thank you so much for your time. I truly appreciate it. I will wrap this thing off later on, but thank you so much for your time.
Oh, thank you, Jerry.
Good stuff. Okay, so there you go. That is the Wolf Conservation Center. I must be honest, I learned quite a bit. There's some shocking stats and stuff out there. If you have the ability, get in touch with these guys, see what you can do. I'm definitely going to follow up on the visit next year, probably in January when I'm in New York. I am hosting Yellowstone Safari, so probably just before that, it'll work out beautifully. But yeah, hit the guys up. Tell them you heard about them on the podcast. Go and see the wolves. Spread the message. I think it's worth it. I really, really do. And I'm going to keep you guys posted as to when I see my first wolf in the wild. If you guys follow me on Instagram and Snapchat, you'll know exactly when that is, because I'll be sharing that with you in real time if I have signal. You can find me on all the social media platforms, Gerry van der Walt, GerryVanderWalt, on all the major platforms. Or if you want to get in touch, send me an email, Gerry, Gerry, at wild-eye, that's wild-eye with a hyphen.co.za. I would love to hear from you. Guys, as always, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you listening. And any questions, get in touch. My name is Gerry. I'm from Wild Eye. Have a good one.